Greetings, friends. I'm AK.
And I'm Laura.
And we are
The Chainsaw Girls. On today's episode, we are talking about one of my favorite slashers of all time. This was your first time seeing it.
First time, and I'm so glad that you introduced me. I really am.
That makes me so happy.
I'm not just blowing smoke up her ass. I really loved this movie, but you should probably say what it is.
Okay, it is the 1981 slasher, The Burning.
The Burning from... Oh, you just said 81, didn't you?
I did.
I was going to say from 1981.
We're just reminding the audience.
Yes.
We're just reminding. It is directed by Tony Maylam, and I'm going to read the IMDb summary.
Yes.
Okay. Abusive former summer camp caretaker Cropsy, horribly burned from a prank gone wrong 5 years earlier, lurks around upstate New York summer camp Stonewater with garden shears and bent on killing the teenagers responsible for his disfigurement.
Yeah.
Oh, I really struggled with that last word.
No, you did well.
Disfigurement. It had a budget of 1.5 million, and it sadly only made 700,000 at the box office.
I think that IMDb summary just explained more to me than I initially understood and when I first watched it. I know I had questions for you at the end, but they were answered.
They were,
We'll get to it.
I thought so.
I do just want to say, at the time of this recording, this movie is available on Amazon Prime and Tubi if you want to watch it before you hear all the spoilers we're about to give you.
Yes. Okay, I have a quick question for you before we get into the movie.
Yes.
Did you ever go to summer camp?
Yes. I did once. I know that you have a story you've been dying to tell me, and
Yes.
I cannot wait to hear it. Mine is going to be much shorter.
Okay.
So I'll just get it out of the way. I went to camp once when I was in 5th grade. I did not want to go. So I think I'm like 9 or 10 or something.
Okay.
I did not want to go. I had a fear of... I feel like I'm being so vulnerable on this podcast. I already talked about my fear of porcelain dolls. Now I'm talking about my next fear. I used to be afraid to drive with anyone but my mom.
Oh.
It's so random. I think it maybe isn't that random. I think it might have been, like, we got into a couple accidents when I was a kid, but not big ones.
Still, that's scary as a kid.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's why, but I was so scared. If anyone else was driving, if I was in the back seat, I would, like, have my head poked out through the front watching the road. Like, I'm...
Like you were being, what do they call it?
A backseat driver?
A backseat driver, like a legit backseat driver.
And I don't know, I was just so scared. And so I did not want to go on the bus. That was the thing. I did not want to get on the bus to go to camp.
Oh, the school bus.
Yes.
Right.
And so my mom was nice enough to drive me to camp. She drove me all the way to camp, me and one of my friends, just so that I wouldn't have to ride on the bus, which was so kind of her.
Aww.
And looking back, I am surprised she did that. I'm surprised she wasn't like, okay, get over it, get on the bus, because, you know, it was the 90s. So that's how a lot of things were handled.
That's true.
But no, for that, I guess I expressed my fear enough to where she was like, okay, I'm not going to force you to get on this bus to where you have a panic attack, so I'm going to take you.
Oh, Mom.
And I know, it was so sweet that she did that. And I only have a couple memories from camp. The main story I wanted to tell you was that story, that I was afraid to go
because you didn't want to get into someone else behind the vehicle.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know you, I don't trust you. What if you're a terrible driver?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to get on the bus. I don't have many memories of actual camp, but another one that's also sad is my mom wrote me a letter and stuck it in my bag and like hid it in my bag. I didn't find it. So I came home and she's like, did you see my letter? I'm like, no. And it was still like folded, like hidden in the bottom of my bag. And I felt so bad that I didn't find it.
Did you keep it?
I don't know where it is now.
I wonder if it's like in a memory box somewhere.
I have a lot of boxes in her garage, of random stuff. But
I love that.
It's
a sweet story though.
It is, but it's not. I have a feeling yours is going to be way more entertaining and less. So I want to get into yours.
All right. Well, strap in. Okay, first of all, I don't know if I've ever like publicly talked about this. I might like a long time ago, like jokingly, but like you, I was very cautious as a child. And I was very attached to my mom and I liked being at home. And but I think I was 7 and I was gonna go to summer camp. And I don't really think I understood what was happening. Except that I was being reassured that I was going to be able to stay in the same cabin as my sister and my cousin. Okay. So that was a big, like, hook for me. They were like...
This feels like foreshadowing.
They were like... I remember my mom and my grandma, because I grew up living with my grandma, too. And they were like, no, you're going to stay with you're gonna be you're not gonna be alone. Essentially, you're not gonna be alone. So I was very scared, but we go to camp, and my first experience getting off of the bus, I was walking and I tripped and I scraped up my knees, like gushing blood, and I was so shy and scared to tell anyone, so I just pretended like nothing happened.
You're just walking around bleeding?
Yes, like through my little jeans, and I like climb up this huge hill to get to the cabins, and then I find out that lo and behold, I am not staying
Of course.
with them, okay? And I'm in a different camp, or different, not a different camp, but different cabin. It was, I think, I can't remember the name of the cabin, but it was like for little kids.
Yeah.
And we were the only cabin at the camp that had its own washroom.
Okay.
Everyone else had to use the outdoor, they had like an outdoor facility with washrooms.
Oh, okay. That's nice, I think.
I mean, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
It was like, okay. So in theory, yes, having a washroom in the cabin would have been a great thing,
Yeah.
except that the evil little heads that went to the camp told me that Candyman was in the washroom.
Not Candyman?
Candyman.
Oh, wait, we already said it 3 times.
Wait, hold on. It's fine.
We're not in a mirror.
We're friends with him. Okay.
Oh, that too.
So they're all telling me, they're like, don't go in the bathroom. There's Candyman. Well, I listened to them, and I was at camp for 7 days. I was supposed to be there for 14 for 2 weeks. I stayed for 7. I did not one time, dude. Not one time. I would not go in the washroom. I remember I wet the bed, and I never wet the bed when I was a kid.
Oh, no.
I wet my bunk bed.
I thought yours was going to be less sad than mine, but it's more sad.
I didn't, and I think the only time I did, I legitimately my pants and didn't want to tell anyone. It was horrible. It was so horrible. And I remember going into like the arts and crafts room and writing a postcard to my dad, like begging him to bring me home. It was horrifying.
And that's how you got brought home?
No, I think the counselors.
I was going to say, you have to wait for your postcard to be delivered.
I'd be there for like a month.
Yeah.
The counselors, I think, pieced together, and long story short, my mom came to get me because I was not surviving well at camp. And I remember there's a scene in The Burning where they're all sitting together in the dining hall.
Yeah.
Flashbacks to camp. Everyone's in the dining hall together and people are singing. It was such a traumatic experience. I hated every second of it.
People were nice
Yeah,
to me, and I was like, ugh.
everyone's singing and having a good time. So
Meanwhile, those counselors are probably like, we need to get this girl out of here. She's pissing all over the place. Oh my gosh, that is so sad.
I know, sad but funny, honestly.
It's funny. Well, I
You
guess
have to laugh at it.
now, yeah. I'm like, if you're laughing at it, I will laugh with you.
Oh, but the best part of the story. I didn't even tell the best part of the
Oh.
story. So, to get revenge, because I was so traumatized by the Candyman incident, I told all of the kids in my cabin that the camp was built on top of a cemetery. And I scared the... I remember I got in big trouble for that. I scared the shit out of
And
all the
how
kids.
old were you?
7, I think.
That is wild. You're
And I-
7 years old.
I was 7 and I was watching horror movies, right?
Yeah,
So, I scared the so I knew who the Candyman was.
That is
obviously.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's its own little movie in itself. These kids bullied you, you yourself, and then you got revenge.
Oh my god. Yeah. So
Wow.
that was my camp experience.
Holy.
So they're
Literally, holy.
so the kids at this camp though, I think they got me beat on having a bad summer camp experience.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
But let's dive in. Oh my gosh. Okay. So 1981. I feel like it's important to point out that this movie did not do well at the box office, which is such a disappointment because it's such a great movie. But it came out the same month as Friday the 13th Part 2.
And the reboot or the re-release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I mean, to go head to
Yes.
head with that's really hard. And they're all the
Yeah.
same subgenre. And obviously there are so many similarities between The Burning and Friday the 13th. They're both the summer camp. There's both slasher, blah, 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 blah.
I wonder if like it's offensive that I'm wearing a Friday the 13th shirt while we're talking about The Burning. Like if there's beef between them, and
I mean, listen, you're wearing one with Jason, and Jason isn't in the original Friday the 13th. So I
Okay.
feel like it's so
so
hard.
it's okay.
Sure, we'll go with it. Well, you know what, AK, you're fine.
Okay.
Everything's gonna be fine. But so it didn't do as well as I wish it would have because it is I'm about to say something that is like total hot take. But I personally, I like The Burning more than I like OG Friday the 13th.
The first one.
I do, yeah. I do.
I'm very curious to know what other people think if they've seen the both. If they've seen the both, what is wrong with me? If they've seen both, or if you haven't and you go watch The Burning, because I assume you've seen Friday the 13th already, to let us know, because
Yeah, please
that
tell
is a
us.
hot take. I don't disagree. I haven't rewatched the very first Friday the 13th
Yeah.
in a while, but I really loved the plot of this movie. There's so much charm to this movie that we're going to get into.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it didn't do well here because it did do well in Japan.
It did do well in Japan, right? It was one of the highest grossing, I think, horror movies at the time.
At the time, yeah.
And it also did really well in Buffalo because it was filmed in North Tonawanda, which is just outside of Buffalo. It's like a suburb of Buffalo.
That's so cool.
So that's really exciting. I really hope that I get to go and check out the lake and stuff.
Yeah, I want to go now. Can we make a trip?
Oh my god, yes. Come
Let's
to
do it.
Buffalo.
I'm going to.
Yay. Oh my god, we can go shopping too.
We're already planning our next trip.
I love it. Okay.
And this was also banned in the UK for a long time.
Oh,
because it was
wow.
too much gore. And so actually when the theatrical release happened in the US, they cut it down. I don't think by much from what I was finding, but they cut out a lot of the gory scenes, and the uncut version didn't release in the US until 2007.
Whoa.
So the one that we watched, I had double checked, it was the uncut version.
Yeah.
So now they just show the uncut version.
I
It's
wonder-
91 minutes.
I'm wondering now if maybe when I originally saw The Burning, I wonder if I hadn't seen the uncut version.
Maybe.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know.
The uncut is 91 minutes. So if you're watching that one, the version that Prime has for sure is the uncut. Because yeah, I was wondering, I'm like, wait, I want to watch the uncut before we talk about this, but
No, for
it
sure.
it should be now.
And it does make sense that it was banned based off the gore because it was the head of special effects makeup on this movie was the one and only Savini, who's like probably the best special effects makeup artists, I would say, maybe, I don't know, ever. Like
Yeah.
he is
He's an icon.
He really is. I mean, Tom Savini is like, and when he talks about this movie too, he sounds so proud of it. And there are little bits as we go along to point out. We'll point out parts
Yeah.
of the movie that were him because he actually did some of the stunts in it, and he's very, very hands on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also really cool to know, since you mentioned like he's very fond of it, that the cast is very fond of this movie. And that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Just knowing that they all had a great time filming. I mean, you can't speak for everyone, right?
Sure.
But overall, the consensus is that a lot of them had a really great time and bonded and became friends, right?
Yeah, that makes me love it more because you really feel that. We should just get into it. Let's
because you see
dive
it in some of the scenes for sure.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive in. So where are
right.
we at?
We are at camp. Say clamp.
Clamp in,
Why?
guys.
Am I okay?
Clamp in. We're going to camp.
We're at Camp Blackfoot. Okay. And there's a group of teenagers, and they're all doing something you hate, which is whispering and murmuring to each other.
I really didn't enjoy that.
No. And they're clearly sneaking around. It's nighttime at this camp. And it's a group of boys, and they're like, we're going to go get him. Okay. They're plotting something.
Yeah.
Right. And you find out that they say something that I didn't catch the first time I watched it. This is the part that I talked to you about. I didn't understand the motive at first, but they're alluding to the fact that this guy Cropsey, which we have to talk about in a second.
Yes.
This guy Cropsey is going to get what he deserves. So clearly he's done something bad. And that,
To them, anyways, in their eyes. Yeah.
because they're whispering in the beginning, I didn't catch that at first.
no,
So-
it is kind of hard to catch.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So the fact that they use the name Cropsey already, I feel like we should kind of touch on because
Yeah.
you gave me the lore on Cropsey.
Okay, so when I originally saw The Burning, I didn't piece together right away that the Cropsey that they're talking about was inspired by this. Okay, so Cropsey on, how do I start this? On Staten Island, there's like a urban legend of this monster boogeyman named Cropsey that essentially kidnaps children. But the truth was that it was actually based off of an actual man. I believe his name was Frank, and then he at some point changed his name. I know I wrote it down somewhere. He changed his name to I would imagine to elude police or something of that effect. But he actually did kidnap children.
Like it was a real person. It wasn't just an urban legend.
It was a real person, and there's a great documentary called Cropsy. I think it came out in 2009 if you want to deep dive into what Cropsy was. But essentially, there were these tunnels underneath a sanitarium.
Sanitarium.
And you really kind of start to see the mistreatment of people, like patients and things like that. And apparently, the urban legend, and this could be true, I'm not 100%, but that he would take the children underneath in the tunnels. At least that's like, that was the lore of it.
Yeah.
Now, what this man actually did, I didn't deep dive into it because quite frankly, it's just so sad and disturbing that anything like that would happen to kids. I didn't really want to deep dive on it. But if you would like to take a look and find out for yourself, like what this guy was all about, check out the Cropsy documentary because it's really good.
So the fact that they used that name during this time gives you the impression they wanted you to think he's doing what that guy was doing in real life.
I think so. Yeah. I think you're right.
Because at no point in the movie do they ever specify what he has done to be such a bad person. They kind of allude to some things later.
Right.
But they never say what he's done.
No, we're just at this point he's a bad man and he isn't good to the kids at camp. I think he's supposed to be like a groundskeeper maybe.
Yeah, and
maintenance, I don't know.
Just take our word for it. He's a bad guy.
Yes.
But also when you're a kid, it's like, what does that mean? That he made you stop doing something that you weren't supposed to be doing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really hard to gauge, and I think that I think you're not really supposed to know at this point because the kids are kind of sneaking around his cabin, and I think there's like 4 or 5 of them, and they have a little discussion about like, are you in? Are you in? Are you in? And it's and they're all like, yeah, this guy, you know? And they sneak into his cabin and he's asleep.
Yeah.
And it's a great little jump scare. There's a lot of fake outs in this movie. But there's a cute little jump scare where he like kind of startles and you think that he's awake, but he's not. And this one kid is holding a skull.
Yeah.
It looked real.
I had questions about that. Do they ever say what that is?
It looks like an actual skull.
It looks like a real skull. It had like candles in it and like bugs on it. So
Like maggots.
I'm like, wait, is this a real skull?
Maybe.
Or did you make this in arts and crafts? Because it is camp and they do things like that, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, those are some top-notch arts and crafts.
Yeah. But we will find out later, some of them have really great skills.
True.
In random areas. So maybe. But yeah, that's a great question because if it's a real skull, where did you get that?
Like, who'd you dig up?
Yeah.
What were you doing?
But they scare him with the skull. And it does seem that they genuinely did just want to scare him.
Yeah, I don't think they were looking to actually harm him.
Yeah.
But oh boy, do they.
Yeah. He is, of course, terrified when he wakes up because they start making noises at the window.
Oh, yeah, they're like banging on the window. That part was really unsettling to me. They're all banging on the window trying to wake him up. Can you imagine waking up to that?
Terrified.
So scared.
Terrified.
Yeah.
So he is terrified as well, wakes up, sees a skull, knocks it over, immediately sets himself on fire.
His legs catch fire, and that's actually Tom Savini, which I thought was kind
scene.
of, yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. It was him. Those were his legs.
Yeah, so he is caught on fire now, and he's flailing around. Oh, you got to tell the story about the house.
Yes, but before I do, like in the actual like setting, like we're in the actual, let's pretend we're in the movie. Why does that whole house catch on fire?
Yes.
Like you would think that there's gasoline all over the house because it goes up in flames in like a second.
Which in real life, you find out, it was covered in
like some kind of petroleum, maybe something like that. And Tom Savini, I suppose, he tells a story. There's a great documentary. I'll put it in the show notes. But he slips and the whole house catches on fire.
Like he had a torch, right?
He had like a torch or something, and I think it was supposed to be like a slow burn, or I don't really know what they were supposed to do, but. Right as it's supposed to happen, and our buddy goes all up in flames, Tom Savini slips, falls, and catches everything on fire. So they just sort of had to push the stunt guy
out the door
in flames. I mean, he is engulfed.
Yeah, because they couldn't do this scene again.
No, there's no way. The house is burned down.
It's now on fire, and it's not just going to go out, and you can't restore it back to what it was. So you have to get this scene, and they got it.
They got it. And I honestly, I love stories like that because I think... I love the honesty of that. That does go wrong. It happens, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you can laugh about it.
Yeah, and you got to be ready to roll, and they were, thank goodness.
They were. And the stunt performer, I believe was 17 at the time, and he was the son of a very famous also stuntman. And sadly he passed away a couple years later in a helicopter stunt gone wrong, which is so sad. So sad.
Sad and scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys caught on fire. The kids are like, oh shit, and they just like take off running.
Yeah, he flails and he like runs out of the house and falls into a lake. Like the edge of the lake. And the kids are just like, they're like staring for a second.
They don't help
like,
him. They're like, which also makes me think they must think he's really terrible.
Yeah.
Or do you think they were like, oh, we don't want to get in trouble for this?
Oh, I think it's the latter for sure.
Yeah,
They didn't want to get in trouble, and they were probably also shocked at what they just saw, I'm sure.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay, we have to talk about this next scene because it is so out of pocket.
That's a great way to describe it. I feel like that's the only way to describe it.
Okay, go ahead, please.
You cut to the hospital. Okay?
Was it 5 years later yet? No.
I don't think so.
I think you're right.
Because he's still burned at this point.
He's in the burn victim unit.
Yes.
Yeah.
We see an orderly and I think an intern walking down the hallway. And this orderly is the most unprofessional person you would ever want to have working in a hospital. Ever.
Like that, I don't even know. That doesn't even cover it. The things he's saying to this intern.
He is a piece of shit straight up. Go ahead.
Okay, so they're walking down the hall. And by the way, this is at St. Catherine's Hospital, which I think is cute. I don't know if cute's the right word, but St. Catherine's is right across from Buffalo on the other side in Canada. Mm-hmm. So I thought I was like, oh, that's a nice nod to Canada. Whether or not that is really why they did it, who knows? But I like to think it is. Okay, so the orderly is walking down the hallway with this intern, and he's basically trying to scare the intern.
Yeah.
He's like, you've never seen you've never seen anything like this. This guy's a total freak. And he's talking about our Cropsy dude who is burned.
Yeah.
And is in like the ICU.
Yeah. And granted, we don't know what Cropsy has done because they never specify. But still, this is a quote unquote professional who is calling this person in the hospital, this patient, a freak.
Yeah, he says.
A monster.
He goes, you're never going to see a freak like this. And then he says, and I quote, he's cooked a Big Mac.
A Big Mac.
A Big Mac. He's
what?
And then he encourages this poor intern to follow him into the room where Cropsy is. Mm-hmm. And he is like, you got to come and look at him. Blah, blah. Yeah. He's trying to scare him. And it's so disturbing. He opens up like the curtain where he is. And he's still just saying horrible things about him. He's
like, I'd rather be dead or something.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
And then I love it. Another jump scare.
He grabs him with the burned arm, which the burned arm looked great.
It looked awesome.
Yeah.
It really did. It looked very cool.
It looked like real gashes and flesh coming off. And it was gross.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the end of the scene.
Yeah.
And then we jump 5 years.
Now we're 5 years later.
Okay. So, couple things about this. One, we see Cropsy now. He's kind of dressed like Darkman. Do you remember the movie Darkman? He's like an anti-hero, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay,
vaguely,
yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, that's what he looks like. And he's walking down the hall, and he's like leaving the hospital. He's, I guess, being released. And I thought the shot was really cool because you are sort of like living. It's revealing sort of what he's gone through, because you hear the doctors kind of saying, we've done everything that we could, and at least you're still alive, and you're just sort of living his trauma with him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like really well done.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of like, oh man, this guy really has.
He really went through it.
He did.
And I think the doctor, the last thing he says as he's walking out is like, it's going to be difficult to adjust, but you will adjust.
Oh, and
basically trying to tell him, like you said, we've done the best we can.
And like, try not to hold it against the kids that did this or something. Doesn't he say something like, try not to hold it against them? So, but essentially you're feeling his rage. Like you really through the screen, you are feeling Cropsy's rage.
Yeah.
And he walks out of the hospital.
And immediately goes and finds a sex worker.
Immediately.
Which, you know what? You've been in the hospital for 5 years. That's fine.
Sure, whatever.
No shame for that in general, but he goes and finds a sex worker to kill.
To kill her.
That's the problem.
And we rewatched the scene a couple times because we were both trying to figure out why he would go after her immediately. We can't tell if he went there to kill her really, or if
maybe when he revealed his face, because she reacts in a way, because first she's like, come on, baby. And
Oh
then,
yeah.
whatever.
I mean, her lines are
know.
just like, okay.
Yeah. But then it's,
Oh, what? No, she goes, are you coming out? Because I'm going in. Like, it's so cheesy and funny.
yeah. But then it's, they don't show it directly, but it seems like maybe he has revealed his face to her, and then she starts backing up and she's like, just leave. And I'm wondering, I feel like it must have been his face that he revealed, and then she was not into it, and that's when he started choking her.
He starts choking her.
Because he
It's
didn't have a
disturbing.
weapon.
No.
I was thinking if he had a weapon, he's coming toward her. That's when she's like, you should just leave. They don't make it clear because you just see her.
Yeah.
From like his point of view almost.
Yes, yeah. Which I think is really cool in this movie because they do
Yeah.
a lot of his POV, which I think is neat.
Yeah. So I don't know that he went there to kill her. That might have been him reacting to her being so disgusted by his face. But either way, he chokes her, starts
Yeah.
choking her, and then he kills her with a pair of scissors.
yeah, he sees the scissors, right? And he's like,
Yeah.
oh.
He's like, oh, this is my thing. Because we find out his weapon of choice is similar to a pair of scissors in garden shears. Because he was a groundskeeper.
No, wait.
Oh, don't worry.
No, wait. What did you call them last night? Hedge clippers?
Hedge clippers. Yeah. Okay, so I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but I mean, it is the next scene anyway. But he eventually has the garden. They keep saying garden shears
They call
throughout
them,
the movie.
but they honestly look like giant hedge clippers. You were right about that.
Okay, so I looked it up. I guess technically these are garden shears.
Oh, okay.
The ones I'm thinking of are
Pruners. Like they prune
pruners
the...
or pruning shears.
Oh,
So I was
okay.
thinking that garden shears are like the little handheld ones, which are pruning shears. I guess they're not wrong. But at first I was like, those are hedge clippers, and Laura just lost it.
I was crying. I was like, no, you're right though. They are.
So it makes sense that he saw these scissors and he's like, oh, flashbacks to my groundskeeper
My days.
days. And he's like, I'm going to use these, and stabs her, which was one of the scenes that was cut when it was censored.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, specifically, I mean, it is very gory.
It is, yeah.
And with the blood coming out of her mouth, and I won't get into too much detail
I felt
here,
bad for her,
guess.
man. I felt really bad for her. I was like,
Yeah.
why are you killing her?
That scene felt...
Like, she didn't burn you.
Right. Yeah, that's what I don't understand. But
Yeah.
maybe that's why I think maybe it had to do with her reaction. Not that makes it okay.
Right.
But it was definitely gory.
It was, yeah. It
very
was scary.
gory.
It was
Yeah.
scary. Okay, so now we're gonna cut over to the camp.
We're back at the camp.
We're back at Camp Blackfoot, and I'm not gonna spend like too much time
Yeah.
describing all of this,
Yeah.
but I really love this scene. Okay, so the opening scene is a little bit cheesy, right? They're all playing baseball.
Yeah.
You know, the girls are. There's a lot of close-ups on boobs and butts.
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever. And they do a good job though of like painting a picture of the relationships between all of these characters. And that they're all pretty good friends, even though this is like early. I don't even know if they've explained how long they've been at camp. I can't really recall.
They
But
don't.
It certainly seems as though a lot of them are friends. They have their own friend groups.
Yeah.
There's younger campers and there's older campers, and they're kind of mingled together.
It's a co-ed camp.
It's a co-ed camp, which is wild
Yeah.
to me. But this is 1981, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is crazy, but I love it because we're introduced to Jason Alexander.
Oh yeah.
I was like shocked when I saw him.
Yes, who
right?
you might know from Seinfeld.
Yes.
He has so many credits, but
He has a million credits. Yeah.
I would say that's a big one.
What is his name in the movie? I can't recall. Dave.
Dave.
And he's great, by the way.
Yeah.
I think he's a great character.
Yeah, I feel like he does a lot of the rapport building in those scenes.
No, for sure.
It feels natural. It feels like it's really happening.
Yeah. And so they're playing baseball. I feel like we should mention this. They're playing baseball and the ball goes flying into the woods. And I believe her name is Tiger. I could be wrong. We couldn't figure out her name. I think it was Tiger. She walks into the woods and she's like, guys, I'm going to find it. And she's like picking through, and Cropsy is lurking and he's getting close to her. And right as he's about to jump on her, she grabs the ball and she's back out with her friends.
Yeah, they do a lot of fake outs like that are really good.
They're really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so...
And then we go to the shower, the outdoor shower.
Oh my God, this scene.
We are going to meet one of the characters that I think both of us can agree might be the worst in the movie, and that's including Cropsy.
I think he's up there as... Well, maybe he's not as bad as Cropsy, but he's a Cropsy in the making.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Like, for real. So Sally, who's one of the camp counselors, She's going to have a shower. It seems like, by the way, not only is this co-ed, but they're all sleeping in the same cabins together.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, she gets up early and she's like, I'm going to go have a quick shower before the day starts. And she goes to the shower. And again, another fake out, which I loved. She's going into the shower. There's already a girl in there. They kind of have a little interaction. And Sally's having her shower. And she feels like someone's watching her. Right? And we obviously assume.
It's Cropsy.
Well, lo and behold, it is not Cropsy. We are being introduced to
Mother Alfred.
Ugh.
We hate Alfred.
Can't stand him.
I'm sorry, but we're going to keep saying that throughout this, I'm sure. Because
He's brutal.
We'll get into it. Okay, so Alfred is peeping on her, we think.
We think he's peeping.
And so does she.
Also, she screams, and something I loved is a bunch of people came running.
Yeah.
Like, which again, I don't know. It just made me feel like these are real people.
Yeah.
Like their friends come running and they're going, what's going on?
Yeah.
And they all start calling out that Alfred was peeping on her.
Alfred was peeping.
Which I thought, that's immediately what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought for sure that's what he was doing.
So when we rewatched, we started questioning it. They don't really show him peeping, so that's why we're kind of questioning it. Like, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he just wanted to scare her because that's what he claimed that he was doing.
Yes, that's what he says. He goes,
Yes.
I wasn't. I was just trying to scare her. It's like, first of all, why are you scaring a girl taking a shower?
Yeah, you're waiting outside the shower for her?
You don't think that's weird?
Yeah.
And inappropriate? Okay.
So then we meet the other counselors. So one is Michelle and one is Todd.
God,
Personally, I hate Todd. I'm on anti-Todd train. I know at first you were like, I like Todd.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, no, Todd. I was unsure because I honestly thought maybe like Todd was trying to give Alfred the benefit of the doubt because maybe he's witnessed him be bullied. Maybe Todd had been bullied.
Yeah.
I don't know. But Todd seems a little older than everybody else. And so does Michelle.
Yeah.
I would say they're what, 19?
Probably.
I mean, Todd looks 35. But
he's probably supposed to be 19.
same with Glazer. Glazer's another one of the characters, and he wants to beat the shit out of Alfred, but Todd is like, don't do it.
Yes. So it really annoyed me because Michelle, which is Todd's girlfriend, by the way, right?
I think so. They got something going on.
At some point, yes. So she is about to go off on Alfred. Like, she is yelling at him. And then Todd is making excuses for Alfred.
Does he say? What do you want me to do? Cut off his...
Yes.
It's like, no, what we want you to do is kick him out of camp for peeping on one of the counselors.
He's like, this is what kids do. Like, he's making all the excuses, all of the 1981 excuses that you could for Alfred here. And Michelle is pissed. I love that. Michelle always stands up to him.
Because Todd is such a pushover.
And she calls him that.
I love it.
Yes.
I was like, yes, Michelle, tell him.
She's like, you're a pushover. You always think the best, or you think the best in every scenario or something. And then all of a sudden, Todd starts to like assert himself with other random people.
Projection.
It's projection. I'm like, no, you needed to yell at Alfred, not these
why are
other
you
people.
yelling at everyone else?
He does end up going to Alfred and like, hey, what's wrong with you? Da da da. Whatever.
He does.
But it's still, I feel like Alfred, like you'd be done. You're done.
Yeah,
You were
think
peeping.
You shouldn't be creeping around girls in the shower.
Yeah.
Get it together.
He also
Alfred.
says something when he's talking to Alfred, when he goes and talks to him privately. He keeps saying bawling you out.
Yeah, what is that?
You think they're gonna be bawling you out? I'm gonna be bawling you out. I'm like, what is that? I know that every region has its own slang.
Sure.
So like Marty Bell and I have talked about like Detroit versus New York slang and like different things. Like, have you ever heard the phrase, I'll blow your shit out?
No. No. What does that mean?
I won't get into it too much here, but I mean, I might, I don't know. So that means like you're gonna rock someone.
When I
like
think blow
punch
your out, I think like your pants or something. Maybe it's my trauma going back to my...
No, because someone else thought it was something sexual. Like, it sounded very sexual.
It does, kind of, yeah.
I'll blow your shit out. It's like a Detroit way to say I'll punch you in the face.
All right.
But, so anyway.
So do you think that's what he's trying to say? Like...
Bawling you out, to me, sounded like cussing you out. Or cursing you out. Some people also don't say cussing. I don't know. I just wrote it down because I was like, what? I've never heard that. Okay, moving on.
Okay, but I also have to point out something that you pointed out to me last night that I never paid attention to, that Todd has one shirt or multiples of the same jean shirt, and he wears it as a jacket sometimes. He wears it buttoned up. I mean, like, when you pointed that out to me, I thought that was so funny because the other people have changed outfits.
Yes, and this movie is across multiple days.
At least 2.
But he wears this jean button-up shirt every single day.
Every day. He loves that jean shirt.
You know what? They're at camp. maybe it's just like, whatever.
He loves a Canadian tuxedo.
I smell like the woods anyway.
Might as well.
But yeah. One time he does have a shirt under it.
He does, yeah.
And
he
then
changes it up a bit.
He layers it, you know? He uses it different ways, different styles. So then we meet Glazer, who you mentioned.
So Glazer, we meet Glazer. He's a prick. We don't like Glazer.
We don't, but at first it's funny because the first time you meet him, he's gripping up Alfred by his shirt, yelling at him for peeping at
Sally, who he's trying to get with, okay? Well, let's point that out too.
Yes.
He's going after Sally.
He calls her his girl. I thought they were together, and then you find out
they're not.
They're not on the same page.
No.
But at first I was like, hell yeah, like beat Alfred's ass.
Me too.
So I was on Team Glazer.
I was as well.
At first.
Right.
So then that's when Todd grips up Glazer. And I'm like, why are you yelling at Glazer instead of Alfred?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of projection going on. I mean, I assume that Todd knows that Glazer's a little too. But Glazer also looks like he's 30. And I think he's supposed to be the same age as Sally.
He looks older than everyone.
Yeah, they both do. They both do. Older.
Glazer, by the way, I know that I saw in the notes that you wrote down, he was a wrestling promoter in Spider-Man.
It always comes back to wrestling.
It always comes back to wrestling. And after seeing him, I'm like, of course he was a wrestling promoter.
No, 100%.
He would be a great wrestling promoter, probably in real life.
So true. So true.
So you had already mentioned a little bit, but they really do a great job of letting the characters banter with each other. And a lot of it feels like unscripted dialogue. And that is so much of this movie's charm.
I agree.
And that kind of leads into this next scene, which is where we go to the lake. I know you said you really like the scene where Glazer's up on the...
Yeah.
I forgot to look it up. It's called a floating dock.
I thought it was called a floating dock.
But maybe people call it a raft too.
Maybe people call it something else. I grew up in Canada and it was called a floating dock.
I'm calling it a floating dock.
So the girls are on a floating dock. The boys are on the shore. And Alfred can't swim, by the way. It's the only thing I have in common with him. So the girls are having a good time and Glazer wants to hook up with Sally. So he swims out to the dock. Mm-hmm. But before he does that, he pushes Alfred into the water.
Yeah.
And one thing I loved about the scene was Alfred, wouldn't really say he's friends with Dave and Eddie, and these are some of the characters. And what was the other one? Woodstock,
Yes.
Eddie,
and Dave.
And Dave are kind of like a trio, sort of. But they all come to his rescue.
Yeah.
They all help him out. They all get him out of the water and get him back on the dock.
Yeah.
And I liked that. It was Glazer that pushed him in, right?
Yeah.
I liked that. And then when Glazer gets on the dock and he's hitting on Sally is just like kind of playing very hard to get and being uninterested in him.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed. She was just like rolling her eyes at him.
I did write down, I thought it was funny. Sally says something. So he says something about like, when can we go for a swim or whatever it is. And she's like, I don't want to get my hair wet. And they all start laughing.
Like hysterically.
And I was like, why is that funny?
It was like, yeah, they were all like dying laughing.
I think they're just laughing because she's like, them.
100%.
Probably. Because I was like, what?
And then we have our friends on the shore. They've got a BB gun now. And Woodstock shoots Glazer in the ass. And Glazer's freaking out. And one of the girls gets up and pushes him into the lake.
She like straight up pounces him.
It's
She's
awesome.
Like,
she just like isn't that like your move? Just like yeets him. And he goes in the water. And obviously he's very upset about this. But I thought it really painted a picture of all these characters. And that they're people. They're real people.
Yeah.
And I liked it's a slow burn because nothing so big happens for like a while.
Yes.
But I think it was important because you end up rooting for them.
Yeah, you get to know the characters a little more. It doesn't feel like they're just rushing through all of it.
Yeah.
And also they have enough fake outs in the beginning that you're still invested because you think, oh, this is it.
Yes.
This is going to be it.
And we were introduced to Cropsy right at the beginning. So we know he's a threat.
Yeah.
We know he's out there. And then we're kind of like, let's just move along. Now it's nighttime.
Yeah.
We're going to the mess hall.
I do just have to say, one of my notes says Todd wears a jean button-up man's blouse throughout the entire movie.
That is what it is. It is.
But yes, we're in the mess hall now.
We're having a good time. Everybody's
Yes.
eating, laughing, and we're being told, the characters are talking about how they're going to an excursion tomorrow, and it's just the older kids.
Yes. And they're making references to like, oh, maybe we're going to hook up with these girls.
Yeah.
And Woodstock is like, oh, did you remember my vitamin E?
Vitamin E.
And then someone goes, oh, you believe in that? And then Dave is like, don't knock it till you try it. And so Woodstock leaves by himself to go get this. So we looked it up because by the context of the dialogue, I assumed this was something sexual. He mentioned
I did not catch that at all. I didn't catch it.
it's because Dave said something to the girls about like want to bring some spermicide or something else that felt very 80s. And so then they immediately start talking about vitamin E, and just with the context I was like, I bet you this is sexual. And so I looked it up, and vitamin E was believed, it might still be believed, I don't know, that it enhances your libido and maybe has other like sexual benefits for libido and maybe like, I don't know, lasting longer, just other things.
I did not get that at all. That's so interesting.
I've never heard that either.
Me neither. I've always known vitamin E helps with like burns. So my initial thought was like, oh, okay. So he's like preemptively prepared. I don't know.
In case he gets set on fire.
I don't know.
In case they want to set someone else on fire. Well, no, because they don't even know that happened.
That's true. That's true. But this is a great fake out. This is another great fake out.
Another great fake out, yes. And we think that he's about to get it when he's going to get his vitamin E and not getting it in the way that he wants to get it.
No, definitely not.
And then it ends up being Todd.
It ends up being Todd. Yeah. And Todd's kind of like, what are you doing out here? And they go back to the mess hall and, whatever.
Yes, he has his vitamin E, which is going to do whatever. Which, side note, from what I looked up, that hasn't been proven it has any effect on libido. But anyway.
In case you were wondering at all.
Yes.
In case you wanted to try it.
So, then they're at the campfire now.
This is a great scene. This was one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie.
I did like this scene a lot. Do you wanna tell it?
Yeah, so we're at the campfire with all the campers, and Todd is leading the campfire stories. It's story time with Todd. Okay. And he proceeds to tell the story of Cropsey and exactly what happened, 5 years ago. But he goes into so much detail, and he does say that Cropsey was terrible. He really paints a picture of a horrible person.
He does. He doesn't, once again, say any specifics except that he was an alcoholic, apparently.
Oh, that's right. He did say that.
And he
was an old drunk or something.
He was an old drunk. He always has a garden shears, which I'm like...
He walks around with the garden shears, and he looks demonic, but according to Todd.
Is he
he could just be trimming hedges.
Exactly. So I'm like... That's why you set him on fire, because he...
God forbid he wants to make the trees look nice.
Right. The only thing he does say where I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere, is when he says there was some kid he used to follow around.
That's true. That was weird.
He doesn't say any more than that, but obviously if a grown man is following a kid around, that's weird.
And he did say the kid was really scared. He was scared for his life.
But they never specify if Cropsey has done anything that's actually up.
I would say he definitely has, but yeah, they allude to it.
Yeah.
And then Todd starts building it up. And did you write down exactly what he says? I did not.
Oh no, I didn't.
He says
not
like
verbatim.
He says something about like he's he sees you, he hears you, and like before you know it, you're dead. Yeah. And then there's a jump scare.
Oh, it was like don't breathe because he'll hear you.
Yeah.
Don't something else. Yeah.
It's very clever. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes. But one of the campers jumps out with a mask and scares the shit out of everybody. What I loved about the scene though is all the kids, when he first starts telling the story, they're all kind of like, yeah, right, Tom, this and as he tells the story, you can see a shift in all their faces as they start to get like more and more, like they're believing it, and they're, the energy around the campfire changes, and I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah.
Because I was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
When he was telling the story, I was like,
he did a great job drawing you in.
He was a good storyteller. That's the only thing I'm giving to Todd. Good storyteller.
The only thing.
Oh well, also he's great at building rafts, but we'll get to that.
Oh, we're not even there yet. My next note is Eddie is a piece of.
Eddie's the worst.
Actually, yeah, I do hate Eddie more than I hate Alfred.
Eddie's horrible.
I take that back what I said earlier.
Okay, so the next day we're going to the island. We're going to this I don't know where it is, but it's another campsite they're going to. And they're all in canoes, and it's a party. Everybody's having the time of their life. They're laughing, right? They're like, it's just such a great scene.
Yeah.
And it was like real. Yeah. Like they were actually having a good time, and one of the canoes sinks.
In real life.
I love that.
And they kept it.
And they kept it in, and people are laughing. And so, it really translates, again, that these are real people.
Yeah.
And they're not just asshole teenagers.
And we talked about, between ourselves yesterday how that is one of the differences between this and Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
You don't get rapport like this with a lot of the characters in Friday the 13th.
Not the way they do here.
No.
Not the way. No, I don't think anyways.
Same.
Outside of Alice, you know,
Sure.
and the, you know, original. But I thought the scene was really fun, and they get to this new campsite and like this new island, and they're all together. Oh God, but I have to say, right around here, isn't there a scene where Alfred is like peeping on Sally and Glazer? It's somewhere around here.
I think it's a little after. I know the next scene is when we have we really meet Eddie in the lake
Eddie's-
with Karen.
So, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
They go for, because Eddie's been kind of like going after this girl Karen a little bit. Like he's like, you know,
Yeah,
he's
from the
trying
beginning.
to, from the beginning, he's trying to get with her, and he asks her to come swimming with him,
Yeah.
and she's not about it.
From the very beginning, she was expressing to Michelle, I think, that she likes him, but she's not really sure.
Yeah.
And Michelle's kind of telling her, like, well,
because he's really nice, and then he's not nice.
he's nice and then he's very pushy. I fucking hate Eddie.
God, I hate him so much.
I want to fight him.
Oh my God.
So, you know, he's very aggressive. He's not just assertive. He's very aggressive,
terrible.
grabbing at her.
Oh, it's so terrible. Pressuring her.
Yes.
Just straight up
Yes.
pressuring her. It's horrible.
Yeah, he says something like, you can't blame me for trying. And it's like, yes, sure, shoot your shot, but I can blame you for not taking no for an answer.
Yeah, she keeps saying no, and then he keeps saying, "Well, we're just going for a swim."
Yeah.
And he gets completely naked and he hops in the water, and he's like, "We're just gonna swim around a little bit," like basically telling her, "I'm not expecting anything from you. I just want to have a good time with you or
Yes.
something." You know, like we don't have to have sex is essentially what he's trying to tell her.
That's really important because we were discussing this before we rewatched it.
So bad.
So yes, he says, we're just going to go for a swim and then I'll take you back to the camp.
Yeah, he does. He tells her, "We're just going for a swim, and then we're going back to camp."
So she's like, okay.
She you can tell she doesn't want to. Like,
He's 100% coercing her.
it made me feel so bad because I feel like I would say most women know what that feels like.
Yes.
To be pressured and to
Absolutely.
you want to say, and you're saying no and they're not taking no for an answer, and it's such a horrible feeling.
Especially when they're trying to make it feel like, oh, well, it's just going to be this. Like how he's saying, we're just going to go swimming and I'll take you back.
Yeah.
She clearly has made it clear to him that she doesn't want to go any further.
She doesn't.
So she's like, okay, like, you know.
Like, she's giving him a chance, I think, because I think she wants to like him.
Yeah. So she goes skinny dipping. She's enjoying the water, splashing around.
Having fun.
Making out a little bit, which there's nothing wrong with that.
And even when they're making out, he's just mauling at her.
And she's pushing him away a little bit. So, like, obviously she wants to have a little bit of fun. And that's
Yeah,
okay.
totally.
You don't have to go all the way. You can stop at here.
Yes.
You know, you can stop anywhere.
Of course.
But in Eddie's mind, no.
No.
He straight up is like, well, why'd you come out here?
Oh, he's such a...
I hate him.
I hate it. I know. He's like, what did you come out here for then? Oh, you're going to do this to me? Like, he basically...
Yeah.
It makes me so... it's so hard for me to even talk about it because it makes me so mad.
I know. He straight up, because it's very real.
Yeah.
It's very real.
Yes, it is,
He
yeah.
straight up, like, splashes at her. He's like, get the out of here then. And she's like, all right, bye. And like, now she finally leaves. Like, I'm like, I don't want to get too deep into it.
I want to beat the absolute out of him.
Yeah.
He's so terrible. And she feels horrible. She feels so horrible. Like,
you can get your out and make out a little bit, okay?
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
there's absolutely... And when someone says no, that's it. You don't make them feel bad for it.
Yeah.
I just felt so bad for her. So she leaves.
And her day just gets worse.
Oh, it gets so much worse.
I hate it. Honestly, I hate this.
I really was rooting for her.
Me too. So someone steals her clothes.
My favorite thing about this, I made a note about it, that the clothes, like, she goes looking for them, and the clothes are just perfectly strung up.
Yeah.
Like a path.
Yeah.
You know, it's like her panties, her shirt,
Her
whatever.
sock, yeah.
and it's just like hanging, and she's like, oh God, and she thinks that someone's playing a prank on her.
And she keeps going, come on, guys.
I feel so bad for Karen.
Me too. And
She'll never know what it's like to have a healthy relationship with someone, ever.
You went from Eddie to now meeting Cropsy.
The worst of the worst.
The worst day someone could possibly have. And then, of course, she is our first, like, official victim of this camp, right?
Yep. Slits her throat.
Slits her throat with the shears.
It was
which
gruesome.
also seems like a very, I guess not difficult. It just seems like a weird, it's such a big pair of scissors, you know?
You just have to, like, open them up and just
Yeah.
like, shh. And then I thought this shot was really cool. He takes the shears and he shoves them into the tree. And it's just a shot of these giant fucking scissors in the tree trunk. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was neat.
And then you're also like, are you going to leave those there?
Yeah. Like, are you taking them with you?
Those
or
are
do you have extra?
Yeah. That's your weapon of choice.
So now Karen's missing and the people are realizing that she's missing.
I wrote down, should have been Eddie.
100%. Eddie. I mean, don't worry. Eddie's going to get it. But
yes.
But everybody's worried about Karen. And I also liked that everybody gave a you know, and Michelle was like, it was you, Eddie. Like, I know it. Where the is she? And as they're having this confrontation with Eddie, they realize that the canoes are missing.
Yes.
All of the canoes.
And now they can't get back.
They can't get back. And they're kind of having this discussion, and they come to the conclusion that Karen was distraught and she got in one of the canoes and she accidentally let the other canoes go, which doesn't really make any sense. But that's the only plausible explanation they have. And Eddie is like, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Blah, 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 blah. He starts to sort of admit that he was to her.
Yeah.
And Michelle knows for a fact that he's a piece of
Yeah.
like, she just calls him.
Oh, she knows.
Yeah. I can't remember how Todd reacts. I just hate him.
I didn't write it down, but I don't think that he had the reaction that you want. He just seemed like he was way too, he made too many excuses for the guys, for sure. It was a very sign of the times.
A million %. Yeah.
Very boys will be boys.
No, they won't be. Okay, they're trash. These men in this movie are bad men.
Specifically Eddie and Alfred and probably Cropsy, I guess.
And Gonzo. No, What's his name?
Wait,
Glazer.
Gonzo.
Is Gonzo a Muppet?
Yeah.
Glazer. My bad.
So they're like, all right, let's split up. We're gonna look for the canoes, okay?
Okay, wait. Tom and Michelle.
Todd.
Tom and Gonzo. Okay. So Todd is like, guys, we need to all split up and we need to go and find these canoes. Everybody just don't stop until you find the canoes. And then it immediately cuts to Todd and Michelle not looking for canoes, just sitting on a rock.
They're just sitting on the rock.
Talking about what's going on.
He's like throwing stones into the water.
Like, Todd, you just told everybody to go look for the canoes. Why aren't you looking?
You look, Todd.
And his shirt's buttoned up, I think, at this point.
He's changed the style a little bit.
He's like, you know what?
He's hoping no one else in camp will notice it's the same shirt.
Imagine if later he took it off and wrapped it around his waist.
That's what I was picturing, like different styles for the same thing.
He wraps it around his shoulders.
So, meanwhile, Glazer is trying so hard to bang Sally.
Oh my god.
Once again, she keeps telling him no. We both have the same exact thought about this, where so he has her like up against a tree and she's just like, no, no, no. Then finally she's like, no. And he lets her go and she walks away.
Literally, the bar is on the ground.
Laura looked at me and she was like, the bar is literally on the floor because why am I over here like, oh, at least he let her go. Like, wow, what a great guy.
Stand up, dude. She says, no, not here, not here. Blah, blah, blah. Like, well, later. She doesn't, she doesn't want to get freaky when I guess people are around.
Yeah, she says later. And
she says later. And
he's like, it's going to be real good, baby.
Yeah, sure. Sure, Glazer. Let's see about that. Let's see how that goes.
I promise, real good.
Yeah, right.
That makes
Poor Sally.
That makes me feel like it's not going to be good at all, sir.
No, it's not going to be good, even a little bit. But go ahead.
Are you about to say that Alfred is peeping on them?
I was about to jump into, this is the scene where Alfred is like hiding behind a rock. Yeah. And he's creeping and peeking.
So that makes me think, okay, then you were probably peeping on, was it Sally earlier too, right?
Yes, it was Sally earlier.
So he's obsessed with Sally.
I feel like,
I didn't think about that.
So I don't believe that he was I just want to scare her. No. You clearly have a thing for Sally and you're just a little creepazoid.
Yeah.
So they can't find the canoes and Todd is like, we're building a raft. Everybody spread out and grab supplies.
Go find some wood. The raft that these people build.
Incredible.
The best raft you could ever possibly get from finding random supplies on an island.
Those pieces of plywood.
Where do you get that 2x4?
I know, like flat, perfect 2x4.
It is cut perfectly. But then Todd and Michelle are talking and she even says like, the raft we built was like amazing. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, I was a Boy Scout. So, okay.
Yeah, they do. He does explain it. And also we were kind of thinking like, where did they get all the rope to tie the raft? But there was rope that was connecting the canoes. So
Yeah.
maybe they used that.
Probably.
But I mean, Todd, I have to hand it to him. His skills as a raft builder,
That was the most secure makeshift raft I think anyone could ever conjure up.
even what are these called? Paddles?
The oars
The
or
oars,
paddles.
even they looked great. They were like sticks all together.
There were a
and-
couple actual ones that they
Right.
clearly left behind, but then there were some makeshift ones.
Okay, so they get this raft, and I mean, I feel like they rolled the dice and picked straws. That's my guess on who gets to go on the raft.
Yeah.
But we should probably name everybody on the raft that's going to try. Basically, they're going to take the raft to try to go get to the mainland.
All I know for sure is that Eddie and Woodstock are on it, but there are some
Yes.
girls.
There are some girls. So let's go through it. The raft. We've got Eddie, Woodstock, Barbara, Diane, and I don't know why I wrote the name Fish. I don't know if Fish is an actual person in this movie. I'm probably not.
Okay.
So let's just say
Out of the main characters, it's Eddie and Woodstock are on this raft, and then some girls.
and Diane, I feel like. Because
Okay.
I feel like Diane especially because the way that anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're all on the raft.
Yes, and they see a floating canoe.
Wait. Before they see the canoe. I mean, they're pedaling
Oh, yeah.
and this raft ain't moving, man.
Yeah.
It is moving at a snail's pace.
They're trying so hard to paddle.
So hard. And they all kind of start bitching amongst each other, and I have to give it to Eddie. Like, they're kind of all arguing, and Eddie goes, "Would all of you just shut the up?" And I was like, okay, Eddie, I appreciate that. Even though you're absolute dog.
yeah.
I'm glad someone told them.
Yeah. Then they see the floating canoe. This was such a great moment in the movie. I mean, that's kind of what ends up happening, but minus that. But
This jump scare, I actually jumped when it happened.
yes, so I really thought, okay, they're slowly getting to this canoe.
And
They're
and the build up is great. They're slowly getting there. They're trying, and the music is kind of making you think like that they've
I thought for sure, okay, they're about to stumble across Karen's body.
I agree. Yes. That's what I
they're
thought
gonna
too. Mm-hmm.
They finally get to the canoe, and out comes fucking Cropsy with this shot right here behind us.
Incredible shot, by the way.
Of the shears above his head, which I think you said was also Savini?
It was the director.
The director, okay.
Yes, the director. I guess because he wanted them really, really high up. And it is really high up, but it is a very cool shot.
It's such a cool scene and shot, definitely. And he slashers.
I mean, he does.
He's a slasher, and he slashes all of them. All of them.
This, I hands down feel like this is one of my favorite kills of any slasher ever.
Really?
Yes, dude.
Like the group of them?
To me, it's iconic. Like,
Yeah.
it's like Woodstock gets his fingers cut off. Boom. Fingers flying, blood everywhere. The girl, like, everyone's screaming. No one really can figure out what the f- going on.
Yeah.
People are getting slashed and stabbed. And Eddie gets it, like, through the throat.
Yeah. Yep.
And I want to say the first girl gets her throat slit, but the last one, he slices open Diane's
Her
forehead.
forehead, yeah.
It reminded me of hold on. It reminded me of the scene in Twister.
Okay.
Where they're at like a drive-in movie and the twisters are coming, the
Yeah.
tornadoes are coming, and all of a sudden like things start flying and stuff. And this man is there, and this big piece of sheet metal comes across and like slices his head.
Oh.
Always scared me as a kid.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh my god, no. But I have a huge scar on my forehead because I split it open when I was a kid, so that's probably where that comes from. But it scared the shit out of me. And this scene when he slices her head open,
Yeah.
I was like,
It looks so gross, and there's so much blood coming out. The only thing that kind of bothered me about it was my first thought was, well, that wouldn't kill her. But it could have made her pass out right away.
yeah. And who knows, maybe he stuffed them in her later.
Why? Why did you say it like that? What the? That's way worse than what I said a few episodes ago.
What did you say?
I don't-
Raring to go or something?
Juice is flowing.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
We're leaving that.
Yeah, let's
We'll
not,
see.
let's
We'll
not
see.
cut that out. Don't cut that out. But yeah, just everybody. There's just blood and body parts everywhere. And the scene ends with Diane's arm falling to her side and blood just slowly coming down her arm into the lake, and it fades to red.
To red, yeah. I liked that a lot.
I loved it.
It looked really cool.
I thought that was a amazing scene.
Yeah.
If you don't even watch the whole movie, just watch the lead up and
Yeah.
the raft kill, because
Yeah.
it's wild. Okay.
So after that, Glazer's finally hooking up with Sally. And unsurprisingly, it sucks.
I mean, what was it? 30 seconds?
Sally is not hiding her disappointment at all.
There is no way that was enjoyable.
No.
There's no way.
She's telling him, like, slow down, like, whatever it
And
was.
he's just like, it's just,
yeah.
poor girl's just laying there.
Just like,
just like, please.
it's not funny, but it is funny.
I'm only laughing because earlier he was like, it's gonna be so
It's
good.
gonna be good, baby. I promise it's gonna be good.
He's like, why do you have to tell me that? Why
Yeah.
do you have to promise me that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she is like, after, she is not hiding it. She's like, well, you didn't really get me warmed up first. Like, she's just telling him what's up.
I'm so glad she says that.
And he leaves her to go back to the main camp to get something.
Well, and he also is like reassuring her. He's like, oh, baby, I'm gonna go get us some candles, and I'm gonna,
I'll make it better. I'll make it better.
I'm gonna make this better for
Yeah.
you. It's like, how are you
Which-
gonna do that?
A part of me is like, good for you. Okay, you're like showing some like care for
Bar.
her. I know the
Very
bar's
on
on
the
the
ground.
ground. The bar's on the ground.
No, but true. At least he's making, I guess, at least he's making an attempt. He knows for sure he was not very good
Yeah.
at all.
So when he goes back to the main camp, Alfred sees him. He's pretending to be asleep.
This is so creepy.
And he like opens one eye.
One eyeball. One.
And then Glazer looks at him and he closes his eyes.
Yeah.
And then when Glazer leaves, Alfred gets up and follows him. Which, by the way, when they show him following back to Sally, Alfred is so close to Glazer. I'm like, how did he not hear him?
When you pointed that out last
Yeah.
night, that was so funny because like there's definitely branches, like he's stepping on stuff, but he was
Yeah.
like not even 5 feet from him.
Alfred is not stealthy. We're about to see how he runs. He is not stealthy.
He's just not stealthy at all.
So this was another great scene. I loved this so much. Because in the meantime, when Glazer was gone, Sally got killed. Obviously by Cropsy. He comes up with the shears. I don't think we see that.
No,
at
it's
first.
off screen.
Yes,
Yeah.
off-screen kill. And then Glazer goes to pull the sleeping bag back. And this really, it didn't make me like scream or anything, but it was a jump scare.
It startled me.
Yeah. So I really was not expecting. Cropsy jumps out like he's in the sleeping bag with her, like hiding or like underneath like a flap.
I don't know. I honestly, the logistics of it, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was he saw the dead body and Cropsy was right there, like over top of him, and like kind of.
It looks like he pulls back the sleeping bag and Cropsy's like right there. So how I pictured
Yeah,
it was
I
like
don't
the
know.
sleeping bag is not closed. It's like he's just using it as a blanket is what I pictured.
Okay, yeah. I see. Okay,
Just for my brain to make sense of it.
sure.
And this kill, like he pierces Glazer through the chest, I think, or the stomach area, torso, somewhere.
Somewhere in between the neck and
Yeah,
the
somewhere on the torso, and lifts him off the ground with
Dude,
these
his
shears.
feet are like dangling and he's hanging from the shears. Brutal.
And then he pins him to the tree, right?
Pins him with the hedge clippers through the tree.
Terrifying.
I thought that was, again, a really, really good kill. Satisfying
Yeah.
for sure. And honestly, Glazer's a piece of shit, so I don't feel bad for him.
And so Alfred has seen this. Now he goes back to tell Todd.
Oh, he's frantic. Alfred, I mean, I don't know if Cropsy notices him. I feel like he might, right? I think he notices Alfred.
I mean, he ends up following him, but
Yeah.
he's also kind of stalking him. I don't know. They don't make it clear.
I don't know. Cropsy's everywhere.
But as he's telling Todd, Cropsy shows up and like swipes at them. And I thought this was funny
This is
too.
funny.
He like scratches Todd's temple and Todd passes out.
I thought he got knocked out, but I think you're right. He just fainted.
He could have hit him, but it looks like a scratch. Like he got scratched by the blade.
It looks like the blade like sliced him
and
a
you
bit.
know what? Maybe he was so scared he just passed out. Maybe he's afraid of pain.
I might pass out. I don't know. If some man was coming at me with garden shears.
Maybe it was so painful. Maybe, I don't know. But he gets swiped and immediately is like, huh. And And I thought that was
No,
hilarious.
that was great. And Alfred takes off, right? Alfred's like,
Oh, he takes off all right.
he is
My man's runs like very realistically.
He's never ran before, I don't think.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Alfred runs like he's never run a day in his life.
Which I think it fits the character.
Yes.
It really does.
He's kind of like hunched. His arms are like dangling and flailing, like he doesn't know what to do with them when he's running.
Yeah.
I'm like, I believe that he would run like that.
I agree. And Cropsy is following him. And there are quite a few parts where you think that Cropsy's about to grab him. And I was really hoping he was going to. But we cut over to our gang that's hanging out. And they're, you know, waiting essentially for someone to come and get them. You know, like they think that the raft has made it to the mainland. But it turns out the raft is now coming down the river towards them.
Yes. And they're all like, haha, come on, guys. What are you doing over there?
Yeah, because you can't really tell. It sort of looks like they're all laying down on the raft.
Yeah.
You can't tell really what's happening.
Yeah.
But again, as the raft is coming closer, everybody starts to shift.
Yeah.
And there's like discomfort. Like they're like, wait, is this? And,
Yeah.
And even one of the girls looks up at Dave and says like, what do you think's happening? And Dave is like, how am I supposed to know? I don't know. So
Yeah.
you can kind of tell like they're like, and Michelle, because she's a badass bitch, was like, I'm going to check it. And
Yeah.
Dave's like, let me come. And she's like, no.
Like, I'm the counselor. I'm going to go.
It's my
Yeah.
responsibility. And she swims out. She's a bomb-ass swimmer. I'm a little envious, man. She just fucking boom, boom, boom. And she pulls up to the raft. Take it away.
The first thing she does is she sees an arm and she like pulls it almost like on top of herself, and you realize it's not connected to anything. So she's freaking out. She's falling back into the water, and then a body, I think it's Woodstock, like pops out of the water at this point onto her. And it's so funny to me when like the props or like the dead bodies like that, like lay on the people. They can't get them off of them, similar to what happened in Dolls with like Rosemary.
Yeah.
Yes, so that happens here, and he's just like, it's so creepy looking.
It's really creepy. It is. And she obviously is like freaked out. She's like screaming. And Todd, at this point, you see Todd is up on this cliff overseeing what's happening down here.
Yeah. And so it kind of cuts to all the kids like on the shore sobbing.
Yeah, it's real. And they've now decided that they're going to get on the raft and they're going to go back to the mainland with Michelle.
Yeah, Todd is staying back. Was it to find Alfred?
It was to find Alfred because Todd can't find Alfred.
And Alfred.
So Michelle leads the group on the raft back to camp.
Yes, and I love this scene because it feels like such a realistic. It feels so realistic. Where how many times did you watch a movie and you're always like, I wonder, like, imagine the back end of that. Like, imagine the cleanup on that. Imagine the conversation after that scene that you don't see.
When something really traumatic happens.
Yes.
And we don't get to see how the characters respond to it.
Yeah.
That raft scene.
Yeah.
Where they're all just like.
They're paddling, they're sobbing, they're exhausted. Because even before physically exhausted, you're going to be emotionally exhausted from that.
I mean, imagine seeing that. All your friends. I mean, that's.
Your friends are dead, and now you have to work really hard to paddle back on this raft.
And maybe they're going to die. They don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And at one point, one of the girls is like, I can't paddle. I'm so tired. And she's just like, you can do it.
Yeah,
Michelle's
Michelle
"You
is
can do
like,
it." Yeah.
What, do you want to stay here then?
Right.
Paddle.
We got to get the out of here.
Yeah. And they do. They get to the camp. They get to the main camp. And Michelle, like, beelines it towards another counselor who we agree is probably like the camp coordinator or something because he seems older than the rest of them.
Yeah.
And she kind of shouts something at him and he's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I love this. Rather than continuing to shout at him, she knows if she does that, at least I think, that the rest of the camp is going to hear what's happening.
Yeah.
So she runs up to him.
That makes sense to me.
And kind of like explains to him, there's a killer out here. And for a minute he goes, come on. And she goes, look at those kids. Mm-hmm. And then you see the kids walking off the raft up the dock, just defeated.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
And he goes, he believes her.
He takes a moment and you can see it register on his face like, okay, I'm going to follow you.
And I like that. I like that it wasn't like a whole drawn out, like, I don't believe you, blah, blah. Like, I liked it. Got right to the point. And they decide to call the police and then go back to this island to find Alfred and Todd.
Yes.
They're going to go rescue because they know that he's still on the island.
Yes, because Todd is now looking for Alfred in this, we think, barn with an axe. So I thought it was really weird that he just captured Alfred and didn't kill him. Everyone else he stabbed. Alfred he just like tied up and pinned.
Okay, so now I actually feel like I know why.
Okay.
I think he was luring Todd in.
Oh.
And we're gonna find out why in a second.
I didn't think about that.
But yes, I'm pretty sure he's luring Todd in.
Okay.
And Todd goes into, I don't know. I thought it was a barn, but you pointed out that there was like a track.
There's a track with a mine cart on it, but you found really interesting information that they were trying to shoot this in a mine at first, right?
They were.
Or cave.
First it was a cave, but there were bats. Then they were going to shoot in this mine, and the mines are in Lockport. And me and the Blade actually went and did like a tour, a Halloween tour. A friend of mine was one of the scare actors there, and you literally walked through this dark mine.
That's
it was
terrifying.
with a lantern. You're holding a lantern, and there's like a guide. And anyways, it was.
Did you go before knowing what you know happened and why they didn't shoot in that mine?
I went before. I had no idea.
Because I don't think I could go in the
I don't
mine.
think I would go in the mine. I don't know if it was this exact spot, obviously, but
Right.
essentially they found a really great spot. This was either in the mine or the cave. You know,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, but they find a spot. They're like, this is it. We're gonna shoot here, and they laid string down so they would be able to find their way out of the cave /
Yeah.
mine. So the next day they go back and they're gonna shoot. Maybe it's not the next day, but whatever. Let's say it is. They go back, and right in the spot where they were gonna shoot, the ceiling of the cave / mine had caved in, and it was just rocks and boulders that could have landed right on them if they were shooting.
Yes. That is so scary. So it makes sense to me why they had shots with mine carts,
Yeah.
because what barn has a track in it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not a farmer.
Me neither. I have no idea.
Maybe you can let us know. Sometimes there are mine carts in barns. I don't know. And maybe you mentioned yesterday, maybe it wasn't even a barn, but it looked like it was because they went from like this, wherever Todd was, to Alfred was by like wood paneling.
There was and Alfred was kind of against wood paneling too. So it was some sort. Listen, it was a big building / barn / mine. I don't know, but it was something.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a maze. It was dark.
Yes. And so Todd, there was a scene where Todd sees like a flash of Karen, and we were trying to really understand. It was such a weird.
Oh, well, he gets knocked. Doesn't he get. This is why we were confused about the mine situation, because this cart comes down the tracks and hits Todd, and Todd kind of eats, and he looks up and he sees Karen, but it almost looks superimposed.
Yes, it almost looked like he was seeing her as she was killed next to the tree.
Yeah, I didn't understand that
And so
either.
I'm like, wait, is she hung up in the barn? The way it looked, I was very, very confused on what they were trying to convey there. Because, yeah. But either way, he's scared. He
sees it.
Yeah.
He also has an axe.
Yes.
I don't know where he got it. I can't remember, but he does have a big ass axe.
But I wrote the killer. Cropsy now has a flamethrower.
Oh yeah, man. He is equipped.
He has upgraded from the garden shears hedge clippers.
He goes, I was burned once. Never again.
This is his revenge.
What would he say? He's the burner? Yeah, because he was the Bernie, right? So now he's the burner.
I'm gonna be the burner, not the Bernie.
So he has a flamethrower.
Wouldn't that be so funny if his name was Bernie?
Oh my god. Oh no. Oh my
Oh, I'm
god.
sorry. I'm sorry. Never mind. Okay, anyway, continue.
So I think you should.
Your reaction. Oh no. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we'll cut that. I don't know.
I don't know, but it's pretty bad. Okay.
Okay.
So as this situation with the flamethrower and Todd is happening, our stupid friend Alfred is struggling with the shears, and he gets himself free from his little area, and it's just so annoying. But he essentially saves the day and stabs Cropsy in the back with his hedge clippers.
So annoyed.
I was like so disappointed by that.
Also, it's revealed in flashbacks at this time that Todd was one of the kids in the very beginning of the movie that set Cropsy on fire. That makes total sense why he'd be luring Todd in.
Yeah, I
Way
think
more sense.
He knows.
Yes.
And so Todd has this big ass axe, and so Cropsy's stunned by the shears in his back.
Well, we think he's dead, I think. I thought he was dead.
Oh, you did?
Well, because he stabs him,
And he kind of falls.
he falls, and then they're walking away together. And then it's
Yeah.
the very, very Friday the 13th, like, jumps up
Right. That is true.
kill them,
Yeah, right. I did forget about that. That was with like the one last scare.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Todd just cracks him in the head with an axe.
And that was actually Tom Savini
Swinging it.
swinging the axe. Yep. And it's a great shot. His face like collapses. It's gross, man. And then icing on the cake, Alfred grabs the flamethrower and he lights Cropsy ablaze.
I'm so pissed about that. Like, why is Alfred the final girl?
Alfred sucks. He sucks as a character. He's a terrible, terrible person.
We were talking about this last night. They did not really help us have sympathy for him or empathy. They didn't really give him any redeeming qualities to make us root for him at all.
No.
And I love this movie, but I'm like, that is not who I wanted to make it out in the end.
I also want to point out there was a scene earlier in the movie with Todd. Okay, this is my issue with Todd. Okay, let's just talk about Todd for a second. We're going to get to the finish. We're almost there.
Yeah.
But I have a problem with Todd. Okay? Todd is a pushover. He's a bit of a people pleaser.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where they're all discussing this whole situation with the canoes.
Oh.
And Michelle is very, stressed.
Yeah.
And she suggests, rather than taking a raft, which is risky, let's just walk around. Let's maybe try hiking back.
Let's start walking, because you're brainstorming at this point. And then Todd,
he turns to her and in front of the entire group says, "Take a look around, Michelle. There's nothing but forest for miles."
I love how pissed off that made you.
Did you have to do it in front of everyone?
Yeah, he definitely demeaned her in front of everyone, and you could tell, you mentioned it, you're like, you can tell he embarrassed her.
He embarrassed her. All he had to say, it's called tact, Todd. There's a way to say that without making someone feel stupid.
That's very true.
It really bothered me, especially because Michelle is a leader without having to walk around like with the crown on. She just leads because she's a boss-ass bitch. Todd is just a bitch. Like, he's just a little bitch. I can't stand him.
We're Team Michelle.
We're Team Michelle. We are not Team Todd.
I said in the beginning, I hate Todd.
Now I get
also,
it. I've crossed the line, and I'm hating Todd.
Todd haters up in here. So another thing that bothered me about Todd, I didn't want to say it when we were at the scene because I was letting it kind of build here too, in case people haven't seen it. But now knowing that Todd is the person, one of the people who set Cropsy on fire the first time, the fact that he sat at that campfire and told this story to a group of kids, it wasn't an urban legend. He knew that was a story that really happened, that he witnessed as a child, that he set this man on fire, intentional or not. And you just told this story to a bunch of kids like it's lore.
Insane.
That's some diabolical right there.
I really do think so, because you're essentially like just admitting what happened.
And making light of it. Because then you have that guy come in a mask, and you're like, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And Todd, it's interesting too, because that scene with Todd, you really see how much he hates Cropsy. As he's explaining the story, you can see he like hates him. So it's like, I get it, but at the same time, that's wild.
Because at first I'm like, wow, he really almost murdered this man, bullied this poor man, because we don't know what he did, that's the thing. Bullied this man, set him on fire, and now he sets him on fire again. I know Alfred's the one that like did it, I think, but still, like you just set this man on fire twice, and you still haven't even elaborated on what he did.
He must have done something really bad. I mean, listen, if it's loosely based off of Cropsy.
If he's supposed to be the real Cropsy, I get it why they didn't want to say any specifics too.
I think so too, and it is supposed to be upstate New York, so that's not that far from Staten Island and New York City, I guess.
And it's probably not a coincidence.
No, definitely not. So I think I still think Todd sucks, and I think Alfred sucks. I think both of them suck. But okay, let's continue.
So the movie ends here with a new group of kids, presumably a new year.
Probably at Camp Blackfoot.
Probably, yes. That's assumed.
I think so. I think it might even say that.
It might, but it's a new group of kids telling the same story around a campfire.
But it's an older kid that's telling the story.
Different kids.
But it ends with, "You're dead."
Yeah.
And I thought that was really I thought that
Yeah.
was cool. I liked it.
The way he said it was scary, and I almost thought his face changed a little bit. I don't know if that was
like
some
maybe
type
because
of-
the fire, like the lit fire, you
Yeah.
know, it kind of
Yeah.
it made him seem spooky.
But you mentioned to me when we were talking about this earlier that that wasn't initially the ending that the director wanted.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we don't know.
I don't know the total lore on this, so I don't feel like I'm in the know on
Okay.
exactly what happened. But yeah,
Yeah.
there was some kind of disagreement about the ending. So I'm kind of curious as to what the original ending was.
Or what they wanted.
Or what they wanted. And if anybody knows that's listening, we'd love to hear about
wanna
it.
know.
I want to know.
Yeah.
I love this movie though.
I do. I really loved this movie. As soon as I saw it was a camp slasher, I was like, hell yeah, I'm in. Mm-hmm. And I understand why you think it's better than the first Friday the 13th. I do.
There's something about the characters that feel really real to me, and I rooted for them the whole way through, apart from Alfred, who but the actual kids, like,
Yeah.
I liked their relationship. There's a random scene where they're in like a cabin, and Dave comes back with a bunch of Playboys and Hustler magazines, and he bought condoms, but it's the scene of just seeing a bunch of kids, like, I don't know,
Building relationships.
yeah, and just being teenagers,
Yeah.
essentially.
When you witness characters building rapport with each other, you start building rapport with them as well.
Yeah, so I thought the movie was really good. I'll never forget that raft scene. I remember the first time I saw it, it just really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
What the
Great recommendation.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. It makes me so
I
happy.
loved it, honestly. Even with Alfred, I fucking loved it overall.
I'm so happy. So if you guys enjoyed it, please let us know. You can follow us on all of our socials at Chainsaw Girls. We're TikTok, YouTube,
Instagram. We have an email.
We do. chainsawgirlspod@gmail.com. Please feel free to email us suggestions.
Don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review if you loved it, because it helps our podcast so much.
It really does. It helps us grow. We love you guys. Thank you for listening. And
Okay,
bye.